every other year they would pump out another installment. Critters, Tremors, all these horror films would just constantly have slew of sequels every freaking year. It's like nowadays, like they just had one come out. I saw all the commercials for it on YouTube. Happy Death Day or something like that.
Yeah, I've been hearing about that. I think Cinema Snob reviewed it just recently
on midnight screenings.
Yeah, I think it's up on there.
But it's like Happy Death Day, and looking at the trailer, it was almost kind of like Valentine's Day, that old movie Valentine's Day or whatever, with David Boreanaz.
Oh, yeah. You're right. It says here on IMDb that she is only in 1 and 2. Man, I would have swore that was her in the Freddy when he sees the vision of his mother or whatever.
Yeah.
Or is that Jason X? I can't remember which one it is where she appears to him and like stops him from killing somebody.
Honestly, I have no clue. But Happy Death Day, I don't know what it is. I'm trying to see right now like what the of course, top stories. Young audiences flock to Happy Death Day. Of course, young.
I don't get it. What is it about?
Let's see. Tree Geldman is a blissfully self-centered collegian who wakes up on her birthday in the bed of a student named Carter. As the morning goes on, Tree gets the eerie feeling that she's experienced the events of this day before, when a masked killer...
Oh, yeah, okay. I've seen the preview. Okay,
when a masked killer suddenly takes her life in a brutal attack, she once again magically wakes up in Carter's dorm room unharmed. Now the frightened young woman must relive the same day over and over until she figures out who murdered her. So it's a horror Groundhog's Day?
Yeah, it sounds a little bit like that Lindsay Lohan movie.
Oh, I hate that movie. God, that movie sucked ass. God, that movie was horrible. But it's saying here that it says it debuted with 26.5 million, and the Wall Street Journal says Happy Death Day scares off Blade Runner.
Blade Runner flopped, which is disappointing because I've heard everyone that I've heard that's seen it says it is absolutely brilliant and perfectly picks up where the other one left off. And Blade Runner being one of my all-time favorite movies, always growing up, that's really sad to me that it failed. And poor Ridley Scott, man, holy cow!
I think it's one of those. I think it took too long for them to come out with a sequel to Blade Runner. I think it took way too long. And second of all, a lot of people, I think, like, did you go and see it, Blade Runner?
No, I did not. I probably should have. I would have if I would have known the results would be that dire. You know me, I don't like movie theaters. I was definitely gonna watch it on demand.
Somebody, I don't remember who it was, maybe on Facebook, they had mentioned they'd gone and seen it, and the young audience at the end of the movie were saying we don't understand what's going on because they never seen the original.
It's very intellectual.
It's
intellectual.
See the original.
Yeah. It's the first one is intellectual and deals with all kinds of different themes, and I'm certain with Ridley Scott doing the second one, it was Ridley Scott, right? He directed and wrote it and all that. I think it just went over people's heads. I think the first one went over people's heads. The first one was pretty brilliant and it gone down as like a sci-fi classic, and I think you're right. There's too many years. Too many generations have passed between the first one and now, and I don't know. This generation.
Actually, wait a minute. This says no. Blade Runner 2049 was directed by Denis Villeneuve, produced by Andrew Kossoff, Broderick Johnson, Bud Yorkin, and Cynthia Sykes-Yorkin. So yeah, it doesn't say Ridley Scott had anything to do with this.
Oh, he didn't do anything with it? I would have swore he was involved. Let me see.
Let's see, in 2007, Ridley Scott, who had directed the original film, considered developing a sequel tentatively titled Metropolis, and stated his interest while attending San Diego Comic-Con in that year. Co-writer Travis Adamright worked with blah, blah, blah. But
this whole time, you see, maybe it's my fault. Maybe it's our generation's fault. We should have got out and seen this movie and known more about it.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he did.
But it was weird. It had very little advertising too, very little marketing for it.
Yeah, I mean,
you hardly ever saw the previews or anything. You had to look it up to find it.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. When you talk about those type of movies, first of all, like Mad Max worked because we didn't have just one Mad Max movie. We had several Mad Max movies. Blade Runner being
and George Miller returned for it.
Blade Runner being so being so long between. I mean, the first one was 1982. Then the second one is in 2017. That's a long ass time for a sequel.
I saw Blade Runner in the theater when it came out, and I remember going with my sister to see it. And I remember as a kid, I thought it was the imagery was so stunning. It was like live anime almost, and it was like visually a stunning movie. As a little kid, I didn't really get it either. I just thought it was cool. Like Harrison Ford was in it, and there was flying cars and robots and cool shit like that. And then as I watched it growing up and getting older, and I kind of got what it is, and like this is really a fucking outstanding movie. It's such a classic, and I think that it was done a disservice by the marketing team on this. And from everything I've heard about this new one, it's fucking great. Everybody says it's like it goes right with the other one, and it's great. And I feel bad that it didn't do good, because that means we're not going to get those kind of movies, like original ideas for sequels of stuff that instead of rebooting everything, this was like a continuation of something.
Now,
and we're going to get less of that now because of the performance, and that sucks.
Now, what's good is one of my favorite franchises and our other Renegade Panda's favorite franchises will be coming back on October 27th with the new installment of Saw. Jigsaw is coming.
It looks from the trailers. I haven't seen the last couple of those. I've seen a few of them, and I haven't seen the last couple. And it looks like this one's going to explain a lot of shit that maybe didn't make a lot of sense in the previous ones. So, they're going to talk about how he's still alive. They're going to talk about his cult or whatever that he's got.
Yeah, if he's still alive. Because I mean, in Saw 3, he gets his throat slashed by a saw blade. He's on his deathbed from a brain tumor, and the guy who's going through the traps cuts him, and we see the autopsy of Jigsaw's body. So it's all about what is going on here. Now, at the end of the last one, so when Jigsaw died in the movie theaters, we found out he had a couple apprentices. He had Amanda Young, which was killed, but then we had Detective Hoffman, and he was, after Saw 3, he was kind of the main guy through until Saw 3D. Well, in the last movie, he's trying to tie up all loose ends and get away scot-free. Well, we find out that Jigsaw had another apprentice, and it was Dr. Gordon. It was Cary Elwes from the first movie.
Oh, okay. So he didn't die in that room.
No, actually, Jigsaw found him when he crawled out of the bathroom. He cauterized his leg on a hot pipe. And then Jigsaw nursed him back to health, and all the surgeries that, like in Saw 2, the guy who had the key behind his eye, and he had to cut out his own eye to get the key out, but he didn't.
Yeah.
Dr. Gordon was the one who performed that surgery to sew the key behind the guy's eye. Anytime there was something surgical needed with these games, it was Dr. Gordon who did it. And you have to watch every single Saw movie to get to get not all the questions answered, but a lot of them in the last film, because you see when Jigsaw died, his wife dropped a tape off at some place, and then you find out it was at Dr. Gordon's, and it was Jigsaw telling Gordon, if anything happens to my wife, I want you to take action and avenge her death. So when Detective Hoffman killed her, Dr. Gordon took it upon himself with two new apprentices that he had to kidnap Hoffman, and they locked him in the same basement or in the same bathroom from the first one and locked him in there to die.
Yeah, what's interesting is it's kind of like the first movie stands apart on its own. It could just be watched as a standalone movie without seeing any of the other ones. And it, in a weird way, it kind of reminds me of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, where how the first Nightmare on Elm Street could be the standalone, just straight horror, and the rest of them kind of came along, and it became more action-y, comic booky horror rather than a straightforward horror movie.
I think when you look at the first one, when you look at the first Saw film, a lot of the traps that were done were very... It seemed like something anybody could do. Chaining people up in a dingy bathroom, in a warehouse somewhere that's been condemned that nobody's going to go into.
Yeah.
It's plausible. Now, later on, some of the traps got more and more. It's like, how did they make them? How were they able to get this piece of this trap into this place?
Well, they rely heavily on suspension of disbelief, which is what a lot of the horror franchises did as they moved into later numbers.
Well, like with the first one, yeah, there was that gore to it, but there was so much psychological in it.
That first one is brilliant. I have said on here that the sequels I never really dug too much, but the first Saw movie is brilliant. If you haven't seen the first one, watch that one because it really is a good horror movie. It's really creepy and weird.
And so I'm hoping that with Jigsaw, the newest one, they go back. I mean, I saw like some of the traps you see in the trailer. Yeah, they look kind of hokey, but I'm hoping that if they were going to reboot it, it had to go back rebooting like the first one. I mean, the first one was good. I even liked the second one where you had everybody in the house and with pumping the nerve gas in there, and he's sitting there and he tells the detective, "Your son is in the same." He tells Donnie Wahlberg, Donnie Wahlberg, your son's in a safe place. If you want him returned to you safely, all you got to do is sit here and talk to me. That's all you got to do. And because the detective is so hot-fused, because Donnie is so short-tempered, he beats Jigsaw, pulls him out, and we find out that his son was in a safe, an actual safe, behind Jigsaw when they were talking the whole time. And if he had just sat there and talked to Jigsaw like he said, that safe would have opened at the end of the timer, and he would have had his son back. But that wasn't, but he didn't play the game right. It's all about the game. It's all about the human choices. And that's what I love about Jigsaw. And I've always said, John Kramer never killed anyone in that movie series. He put them in traps that if they didn't pass the test, they would die. But he never physically, by his own hands, killed anybody. By the trap.
Yeah, that goes along with the argument, if it's like the guns don't kill people argument. The guy did it. He set them in there. They wouldn't have died had he not put them in the trap.
True.
So it's kind of like, well, I still really dig that first one. Like I could sit down and watch that one now.
I think they're all on Hulu right now. I think every one of them is on Hulu, so people can go and watch them and binge watch them. And
it was such an original concept when that first one came out. It was like you didn't, especially the marketing campaign for that, you didn't know what the hell to expect when they first. It was so weird with the little doll. Like, is it a living doll? What is this?
Is it Annabelle? What is it?
Yeah. You don't know what it is, and then you watch it, and the whole movie takes place in a dingy bathroom.
Yeah, for the most part,
tiled room. And it's just this weird psychological back and forth between the two guys, and they're trying to figure out how the hell they got there and why would somebody put them there.
And then you had Danny Glover's character, who was a cop, who his partner was killed, and now he's obsessed with the Jigsaw, and you see kind of his descent into madness of trying to capture Jigsaw. And it just, it was really psychological in everything that it did, and the traps were even, like one guy was in a barbed wire room. He had to make it to the other side of this barbed wire room.
Yeah, like razor wire.
Yeah, and then the other one was like in a room full of glass, and he was slathered in like a flammable substance, and he had to find the key to like a safe that could open the door for him. They were a lot less dramatic. Like in the last one, a woman gets put in a brazen bull. And burned to death. It's a lot different. Those traps were a lot different, and I would say believable than the first one. To me, it was almost kind of like the movie Seven when you watch the movie Seven, and how those.
Well, they both have that payoff at the end.
Yeah.
It's like you wait you have no idea. Like that was the coolest thing about it. The most original thing about it is because through that whole movie, you second guess yourself. Watching that body on the floor. The guy's just laying there dead the whole movie. You don't know why the body's there. And the two guys just kind of ignore it. And they're like, talk over it.
Yeah.
And it just lays there the whole time. And you don't expect it. And like, you even think, I bet that guy's alive. And then it goes on for so long. You're like, no, there's no way he's alive. He's laid there the entire movie. There's no way.
Yeah.
And then he just gets up and strolls out of the room. And it is the craziest moment ever. And it's like, oh my God. And when me and my wife watched it the first time, we were like, holy shit, that was a brilliant horror movie.
I felt the same way because the first time I saw it, now I think the first saw, let me see, when did it